2022 has been a horrific year for Hollywood, and the box office results reflect that. This has been a year from the very beginning that's been full of flops, full of disappointments, full of straight up box office bombs, with some movies losing north of $200 million for these studios. And even though here we are in the last few days of 2022, Avatar: The Way of Water, certainly with well over $1 billion, doing especially well internationally, that might have some people feeling a little bit better about this year. But it wouldn't be right if we didn't end the year without another box office flop, and that's exactly what Babylon is. The movie starring Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie is a complete failure at the box office. No jazz for Babylon at domestic box office with $4 million debut. Brad Pitt, Margot Robbie epic won't hit $250 million break-even mark. Here's why. And there has been several people that are rushing out and saying, how dare you? How dare you blame Margot Robbie? Why is she getting so much of the blame? And I will be honest, that's been a lot of the discussion. A lot of the discussion here has been surrounding Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie's not a flop, even if her movies are. So of course you have some left-wing activist Daily Beast article that is of course going to defend Margot Robbie no matter what, because simply put, she's a woman. But the real reason she's getting so much heat compared to her co-star Brad Pitt is one, because so much of the marketing was revolving around Margot Robbie. She was the face of this movie. All the posters, all the ads, it all featured Margot Robbie right at the forefront. And also, just a few months ago, Brad Pitt had a fairly well-received movie called Bullet Train that was out there. Margot Robbie, what did she do a few months ago? Oh, that's right. She had yet another box office flop. Margot Robbie's Babylon becomes her second box office flop of 2022. As we sit here and look at Babylon, only has made $7 million at this point with a reported. So there's a couple different things with the budget. Some people say around 80 million. Some say as much as $110 million production budget. You add marketing on top of that, you add all this stuff. You're looking at around a $240, potentially $250 million break-even point. It will get nowhere close to that. But when we looked just a few months ago at something that absolutely did have an $80 million budget, Amsterdam, look at these numbers, 15 million domestic, 15 million internationally, under $30 million at the global box office. And this is a movie featuring Margot Robbie and Christian Bale. They had top billing. This was a box office disaster. You couple that on top of how long ago was Birds of Prey? 2 years ago at this point, nearly 3. That's something recent from Margot Robbie that was a complete and total disaster as well. This is the reason that Margot Robbie is catching probably a little bit more heat than some of her other co-stars are for this movie, but that doesn't stop the media from trying to defend her. With back-to-back epic disasters in Amsterdam and Babylon, the actress is catching heat, but we should be celebrating her weird choice of films, not lambasting their failures. If something doesn't make money, I don't know if we should be celebrating that necessarily. If you're going to make a weird movie, maybe it shouldn't be with an $80 to $100 million budget. If you're going to make a weird little movie, maybe have it have a $10 million budget, a $5 million budget. Make all the weird shit you want, and you're not going to lose hundreds of millions of dollars. But no, that hasn't been the case. Is it such a crime to be beautiful and talented? Let's ask the audience. If we're polling Twitter, the response is yes, based on the response to Babylon's opening weekend. Damien Chazelle's second love letter to Hollywood earned just under $5 million over the holiday against a reported $80 million budget, 110 from some places, before promotion costs. That qualifies as a disastrous start. It also makes Babylon the lowest wide-release domestic box office number for its star, Margot Robbie, in her entire career so far. Babylon's epic failure can be attributed to quite a few things. For one, its marketing was abysmal. Are there parties? Are there drugs? Is Jean Smart in it? The film's also free of any franchise attachment, and there's no way a stylish enigma could win out when stacked against something like Avatar or the new Puss in Boots. Well, then don't release it that weekend. You guys are the ones that chose to release it that same weekend. Yet for all the factors, Margot Robbie is the one taking all of the heat on Twitter, which as we know is the opinion of the world at large. Margot Robbie is on the flop run of her life, said one user. Margot Robbie's movies have lost Hollywood nearly $200 million this year. Likely will be more than that when it's all said and done. Sure, if we're connecting the dots, it would seem that a pattern is starting to emerge. Robbie had top billing in 2 films, and both films returned dismal numbers. But why is she catching all of the strays? It also has Brad Pitt, Jean Smart, Tobey Maguire, and Olivia Wilde, to name just a few. Olivia Wilde caught hell for her disaster of a movie that came out a couple months ago. It was a disaster in the production period. There's a lot of drama surrounding it with the whole Chris Pine thing, everything. That was a disaster. She got a lot of fucking heat. But she's not the top billed actress in this. A lot of people didn't even know she was in this movie. Margot Robbie is. That's the reality. They go to talk about the abuse allegations against Brad Pitt that are out there. Why isn't he getting more things? Why is he being protected while Margot Robbie gets dragged? It's so predictable. If you have the right genitalia or the right politics in Hollywood, you will be protected by the media. But unfortunately, nothing can protect you from reality. And the reality is that Babylon is once again another Hollywood flop, another disaster to close out the year. One of the worst years we've seen. I think since 2000, the lowest domestic numbers, other than the 2 years that COVID was shut down. People can try to use a pandemic excuse now. It's not an excuse. Not when you have movies that are, the third fastest movie to $1 billion in history, like Avatar 2. Not when you have Top Gun Maverick. Not to close out last year, you had Spider-Man No Way Home. These excuses don't work anymore, quite frankly. The pandemic is not the one that's keeping people away. It's Hollywood that's keeping people away. And that much is blatantly obvious at this point. And of course, the fans and the critics are both very mad on this movie. Word of mouth certainly didn't help. Another flop for Margot Robbie. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, ring the bell for notifications, share this video out there, and I'll talk to you later.